If Santa is so hard for adults to believe in, why is he so easy to find in the Santa Claus? Let's talk about it. Hey guys, I'm Megan, and welcome to the Fangirl, where it is high time I cover the Santa Claus. It is really one of the best Christmas movies out there, and even visually, it holds up pretty well today. And you know, the setup premise for the Santa Claus is actually pretty weird. Here we have Scott Calvin really upset that his son Charlie was told that Santa's not real.
And who gave you permission to tell Charlie there's no Santa Claus?
Then presto! That very night, the boys hear Santa up on the roof. How did this happen, and why is it the first time that it's happening? I mean, come on, if Santa were that loud, wouldn't he be more of a tangible fact in this world rather than something to believe in? And you're telling me that after visiting millions of houses over years and years and years, Santa can't tiptoe efficiently in those boots? I mean, doesn't the Santa song go, "He sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake"? And that does apply to this universe because at one point Santa sings it in the Santa Claus 2 to reference his abilities. Which all means that 1, Santa shouldn't be so loud. 2, Santa should be very aware that Scott and Charlie are awake, which means he'd either not go in that house at that point or be very, very extra quiet. And 3, how is it that Santa is so jumpy and clumsy that he falls right off the roof as soon as Scott calls out to him? Much like keeping quiet, walking on roofs should really be second nature to an experienced Santa. So what is going on? Well, I think the guy who fell off the roof, the fallen Santa, is also brand new at the job. And that would mean that somehow another Santa had died earlier that night. Need more proof? Think about the noise that Scott and Charlie heard.
What, Charlie?
There, a clatter!
Charlie, what are you talking about? Come on, let's go back to bed.
It wasn't a sleigh landing, it was the sound of harsh, stomping boots with a lot of pauses in between. It's almost like Santa was either struggling to get dressed or he didn't know how to maneuver around very well on a roof. So clearly, this was not someone accustomed to using their magic yet. As we saw when Scott took over for Santa, all Santa has to do is grab his bag and it will silently float you in and out of the house without being detected at all. So it makes no sense that Santa would make so much noise on the rooftop, let alone be up there mumbling to himself loud enough for people inside the house to hear. And being a brand new Santa would explain perfectly why the fallen Santa fell. It's because he was a brand new Santa, maybe even at his first house, and he had no idea what he was doing. And so he jumped out of his skin when somebody called to him out on the roof and could see him, and that's why he slid down to his death, because it was his first few moments on the job with zero training. OSHA would have had a fit. If you don't believe me yet, look at what happens when Scott takes over as Santa. He sets off a Rottweiler, accidentally wakes up a kid, throws out an entire kayak and a paddle, knocking over a Christmas tree. Scott clearly had no sense for how to be quiet. Really, it's kind of amazing that Scott himself didn't get shot or fall off a rooftop with all the commotion he kept making. Now compare Scott's first Santa run to his second year as Santa. Scott has it all down to a rhythm in his second year of Santa-ing, and he really would not have been caught had the police not been looking for him. Even the girl that Scott woke up in his first run as Santa did not wake up of her own accord in his second year. Santa woke her up. So we're shown that by Scott's second time as Santa, he's got pretty quiet feet and a good handle on his magic, so he was able to execute his Santa duties without any extra disruptive sounds. And that proves to us again that the fallen Santa had to be a brand new guy. Plus, even though we don't get a really good look at him, the fallen Santa definitely has a fake beard. And that might imply that this guy was wearing a Santa costume when he came across the Santa suit. Honestly, the fake hair and bodysuits that they made for this movie were so well done that it doesn't make sense why the fallen Santa has this clearly fake beard. Why didn't they give the whole catalyst for the movie a more realistic beard? Well, because Fallen Santa had just stepped into that role by accident, like Scott did. The devil's in those details, and they tell an entire story on their own. And to further drive this entire theory home, where's Mrs. Claus? You want to tell me that Santa magically vanishes when he dies so that no child ever finds his body? Fine, I will support that. But, according to the Santa Claus 2, there's the Mrs. Claus that forces Santa to be married.
Well, the card holder acknowledges woman of his choosing, true love, holy matrimony. I gotta get married!
So, when that sleigh came back to the North Pole with Scott Calvin instead of the fallen Santa, where was his wife? Surely she didn't magically evaporate too, right? And even if she did, Scott gets put immediately into Santa's room and there's no hint of a female presence in there. Something doesn't add up. And when you watch the Santa Claus 2 and hear that back and forth about the Mrs. Claus...
Our number 2 elf, the keeper of the handbook, overlooked the single most important detail in the history of Christmas.
Even Bernard, the head elf, doesn't seem to know that the Mrs. Claus existed. And Bernard's been around for hundreds of years, at least, advising Santa, so how does he not know this? Now, the issue with the Mrs. Claus is that Santa is going to lose all of his magic if he doesn't tie the knot by the given deadline. And that would mean that Santa can't be Santa anymore. So for an elf like Bernard, who is the head elf who should know everything, who advises Santa to not know about the Mrs. Claus, lets us further infer that no Santa has lasted as long as Scott Calvin has. And when you consider that the Santa Claus and the Santa Claus 2 have an 8-year time span between them, that means that every other Santa has died and been replaced by a new schmuck before the Mrs. Claus could take effect. And really think about it. You're telling me that Bernard knows that Santa gets 1 year to get his whole personal life wrapped up, but he has no clue that Santa has a timeline to get married? That really suggests that the turnover rate for Santas is extremely high. And whoever starts as Santa on Christmas Eve night is rarely ever the same person to return to the North Pole by Christmas Day. And whew, that's kind of creepy when you think about it. However, it does explain why the elves didn't even blink at Scott pulling into the North Pole. You know, if Santa had been the same guy for 60 years, you'd think that at least a few of the elves would be like, "Who are you?" But no one even had a single question about what happened to the last Santa. They were just like, you read the card, you put on the suit, you're now contractually obligated to take this job. It's almost like the role of Santa is some kind of curse. But I guess if you go through 2 or 3 Santas every year, that revolving door of Santa Clauses isn't even worth talking about. Still, ice cold, elfie elves. Which essentially means that the elves don't care about Santa the person, they care about Santa the idea and completing the mission. That's why ELFS, the elite squad of flying elves that help Santa break out of prison, were only dispatched after Santa got arrested. If the elves cared about Santa the person, ELFS would have been traveling alongside with Santa in the sleigh, making sure he doesn't get injured. But if Scott dies, someone else will put on the suit and become Santa and then carry on the Christmas deliveries, so Scott himself does not matter. The only reason that ELFS came to bust Scott out of jail was because that baton hadn't been passed over. So if Scott wasn't the one delivering gifts, there was no one else who could take over for him as Santa because he hadn't died, nobody else took the suit. And that's what forced the elves to act to save Mission Christmas. If Scott had been arrested on December 26th, they probably would have let him sit in jail until Santa was needed next year. But there you have it. The fallen Santa was also a new Santa, maybe even on his very first house, and that's why he made so much noise. And through this theory, I've also proven that the elves are a little more nefarious than we thought, and that Scott Calvin is the longest reigning Santa in hundreds of years. And Scott's survival is likely due to his son Charlie taking so much effort to upgrade his sleigh and suit and everything else. It might not be reality, but theories are more fun. He was new at the job and scared and startled, so he just lost all sense of how to stand like a person. No, falling off a roof is not the same as standing. It's an 8-year time difference between the release of The Santa Claus and The Santa Claus 2, so we've There's an 8-year time gap between the Santa Claus and the Santa Claus 2, which means no Santa previous or... So he made way too much of a racket and then scared himself and fell off the roof when somebody called him out, "Hey, what are you doing up there, dude?" And so ended up jumping out of his skin when somebody called him out for being on the roof, and that's why he literally fell to his death. However, it does explain why the elves didn't even blink when Scott pulled up in the North Pole instead of the guy they saw throws out an entire kayak and paddle, knocking down the tree. Like, Scott had no sense that he... And when you watch the Santa Claus 2 and you hear the back and forth about the Santa Claus, the Mrs. Claus, they were just like, you read the card, you put on the suit, you're now contractually obligated to take... They were just like, you read the card, you put on the suit, you're now contractually obligated to take... Oh. You're telling me that Bernard knows that Santa gets 1 year to get all of his personal affairs in order. And Bernard. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share 1 or 2 on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, "Hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people." So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, "Hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye."